Sunak has gambled on an election date, knowing success under any definition is hard. We're going to read into this analysis piece by Sam Coates from Sky News, you guys. Let's go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Reganelite here with an analysis piece here from Sam Coates of Sky News with the headline that Sunak has gambled on an election date, knowing success under any definition is hard. The Prime Minister has called an election with a story to tell about the economy. But there was a real, perhaps existential question about how long Sunak could continue to hold it together. Guys, while you're here, make sure you hit the like button and share across social media so others are notified of this video. So Sam Coates is what has got quite some influence, shall we say, and he's kind of really good with the know-how when it comes to political stuff. Some people may disagree with some of his ideas, but I wanted to share this analysis piece from him, and I'm very fascinated to read it along with you guys because I really think it'll give us a bit more of a mindset of what's happening inside Number 10. And just on the front there, obviously about this, so let's dive into it. So obviously the general election being called on the 4th of July. Independence Day of all days. I know, funny that. And it feels like it just feels very, very weird that we are having it done on the 4th of July. And it feels like it's kind of been thrown out of nowhere. Because on the day, just to give a bit of a caveat, so I was live streaming Prime Minister's questions. I had no inclination in my mind at all that a general election was going to be called. There was a little bit of rumours or whatnot, but I didn't really pay that seriously. I only took it seriously when I heard about David Cameron flying back to the country when people's meetings and whatnots were all cancelled and there was a cabinet meeting being called. That's when I was like, oh, this is definitely happening. And then obviously everything's all kicked off since then. Now, also at the time of this recording, there are many Conservative MPs who are furious about this decision as well. So that's obviously not helped. There's one senior Conservative MP who's going to still go on holiday regardless of this general election campaign. There's obviously a scramble by them to obviously get volunteers and whatnot ready. I don't think this was a decision that Sunak wanted to make, in my opinion. Now, I really don't think he wanted to make this decision. Part of me does feel, and there was obviously rumours that letters of no confidence were going to go in against him if he didn't call this general election. Now, I don't know how true that is, but one thing we do know is that this Conservative Party is nowhere near united. They are extremely divided in every way, shape, or form. They're divided on immigration. They're divided on Brexit. They're divided on lots of issues. And some Conservative MPs are more harder than others. Some are a little bit more soft. And it's not been a very good couple of years for the Conservatives. And in fact, the last 14 years, the country has been worse off, that is for sure. High streets have not changed. A lot of them still boarded up and whatnot. Lots of communities have been run down thanks to the austerity. We don't have the public libraries and as many police stations as we used to in some of the towns and rural communities. We have a national healthcare service, which, yes, you could argue maybe COVID has had an impact on that, and it's rightfully so. But it still hasn't recovered. But also, our National Healthcare Service was also struggling during the winter crises before COVID as well. And that was that's been happening under the Conservatives. We did not have that issue back in 2010 with our National Healthcare Service as well. We also have an issue with our education. One of the things is that teachers have been repeatedly stories of teachers being overwhelmed when it comes to their workload. We've had teachers literally begging parents to donate money or stationary equipment to help keep them going in some state schools. Like, that's how desperate they are in terms of funding. We also have many school buildings which are deemed unsafe, so that meant that schools have to, out of their own pocket, not the government, out of their own budgets, have had to pull up money to get mobile homes so that kids can teach in these mobile homes, because the buildings that they normally have teach their kids in are unsafe, and the government has not initiated enough money to deal with them. So that's another issue as well. We have our housing crisis as well. We have a severely lacking the number of houses, nowhere near the amount that we needed to. We've just come off the back of the blood infected scandal as well. And it feels like the Conservatives have kind of dodged this one in terms of dealing with the compensation and whatnot. And they're kind of leaving it in the problem leaving it at the feet of Labour, that one, as well as the post office scandal. But the inquiry is obviously that taking place. How's that going to be paid for as well? And other scandals that we've had in the past as well, Hillsborough, Grenfell, just for example. Like, how is a future government going to be able to deal with this as well? Brexit, obviously, as well. How can I not forget Brexit? You know, the deal that was signed by Boris Johnson to get Brexit done, and businesses want to know are not getting the best things right now, and red tapes and barriers are being put up between them and the EU, which is not serving in their interest, and it's not serving in the EU's interest, but it's certainly hurting us a lot more than it is hurting the EU. So this and so many more problems have been taking place over the last 14 years, and there was a lot of relief on Wednesday night. There was a lot of relief that a general election has finally been called, that people can finally be able to cast their vote and kick the Conservatives out. But also the question is, what's next as well? Now, while Sunak is going to be gambling on this, like, if we brought down inflation, it's a very positive day. Let's roll on this as well. So it's possible that Sunak is gambling on. While he may have been pressured to do a general election, it's entirely possible it could be a completely different scenario, and maybe Sam Coates is going to dive into this, and we'll listen to in a moment. He's going to based off the fact of inflation is down, we have growth, we've gotten out of recession, I've helped with the furlough, I brought the furlough scheme to you guys. Like, these are some of the things that Sunak will point out. And he will also point out that you don't know, Keir Starmer has made U-turns. You can't trust this man. You can't trust the Labour Party. Yes, you can argue they've changed as a party, but how can you trust this party? How can you trust Keir Starmer? I think is the question Sunak going to be putting to people.
And that's going to play a part.
Apologies. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting, to say the least. So let's read more. Let's read this piece of what Sam Coates had to say on this gamble, guys. So Rishi Sunak has made the calculation that July the 4th is, if not the best election date for the Conservatives, or at least the worst. Firstly, he thinks there's a story to tell on the economy, a bit one that is not without peril. Britain is out of recession, while inflation today is statistically within normal levels. Secondly, it's likely a plane will possibly take off for the Rwanda within the election campaign. While this will be branded a success, it will avoid the judgment of the true purpose of the policy to stop the boats. Yes, so just on the Rwanda policy itself, obviously we know that Labour are going to stop any flights once they come into power. In doing so, they are going to still try to get this get some flights going during the campaign election as well. So the civil servants are going to be facing pressure to do so. Thirdly, I understand it was no longer possible to have a budget or further physical statement after the big promise to increase military spending to 2.5% by 2030. Yeah, the budget, obviously the last budget they had of Jeremy Hunt did not move the poll numbers in any way, shape or form, and it was just a case of, like, yeah, people weren't buying it. So I agree with that. One Tory source told me that the moment they saw that, you knew there would be further tax cuts and an election would be sooner rather than later. But more than that, there was a real, perhaps existential question about how long Sunak could continue to hold it together. There are revolts in Parliament looming on abortion, on smoking, and on shortened prison sentences. This potentially avoids some of those. He's also facing questions about whether he would have to do a reshuffle after Chris Heaton-Harris, the Northern Ireland Secretary, announced his departure at the next election, predicted that it should have prompted a reshuffle. Perhaps this has avoided that. Yeah, so there was very talk of possibility of a reshuffle coming as well. But there are also claims that might never be proved one way or another, that more and more Tories wanted him gone, or he could have been tiptoeing closer to a vote of no confidence. Only Sir Graham Brady knows the truth of this. All of this is now in the past. Sunak has gambled that knowing success is under any definition is hard. And it is. It's going to be very, very hard for the Rishi Sunak to convince people to vote for him. There's going to be a lot of people who will not voting for him, and I'm not even talking about the tactical voting that's going to be taking place. There's going to be so much tactical voting taking place. Those who are behind the website stopthetories.org, those who are going to be there's a lot of campaigns, going to be a lot of campaigning and a lot of groundwork from people, individuals both online and on the far paths, who are going to be doing everything they possibly can to tactically vote out as many Conservative MPs as possible, whether that means voting Labour or voting Lib Dem in certain constituencies, or even in Wales or in Scotland, making sure that as few Conservative MPs appear at when the dust has settled at the general election. There will be a lot of tactical voting and a lot of pushing in that momentum. But like I also said, this is going to be a very dirty campaign. There's going to be a lot of dirty tactics are going to be by the Conservatives. The question is, how dirty are Labour going to go as well? And we also haven't really touched on, and I will touch on the other parties in time, about the Liberal Democrats and the Green Party as well, and how they're going to be affected. Also, obviously, I talked a bit about the reform side of things, obviously, about as well. We'll be talking about them as well. So it'll be interesting to see how those parties are going to be, how they're going to be perceived, and how they're going to be able to, what kind of campaigns that they're going to be doing in this general election as well. It's going to be a fascinating run, that is for sure, guys. So what do you guys make of the analysis piece by Sam Coates? What do you think of my thoughts on things so far under Rishi Sunak? Do you think Sunak was right to call the general election on his perspective, given that there's some positive news on that account, or do you think he was kind of pushed into this? What do you guys honestly think about all this? Let me know what you think Sunak was actually thinking and more in the comment section down below. And what are your thoughts on the analysis pieces we read there from Sam Coates of Sky News as well? If you found this video interesting, please hit the like button. We greatly appreciate it. Share it across social media so others are notified of this video, and subscribe, because it really does help support the channel. And if you want to go one step further, financially support me and the work that I do here, you can do so by becoming a YouTube member for as little as 99p, or join me on Rumble or Patreon for exclusive content there as well. So thank you all so much for watching. I hope to catch you all very, very soon.